everyone, Swati here. I'm going to be moderator for today's webinar. In case you have any problem with audio or video, please let us know through chat. Okay, so before we start, I'll give you a quick run through on how we are going to proceed. So we'll start with a small introduction on manufacturing today and ITP media.
Yeah.
And then we'll go with the panelist introduction, and then we'll start the panel discussion. Also, in between, we will have some polls. So audience, please participate in polls and register your opinions. Okay. We'll have Q&A session towards the end of the session. You can definitely ask questions through Q&A, and we'll try to take as many questions possible. In case we are not able to take any question, we can later take it offline. Okay. Now let's start our webinar, and I would like to request my colleague Sanjay to start off with the introduction of manufacturing today.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with the eminent speakers, and I thank you, each one of you, for taking your time out for today's webinar. I'll give a very small introduction to ITP. I know we don't have much time. ITP Media Group is headquartered in Dubai, and we publish over 100 titles for the B2B and B2C markets. We also organize events in the similar spaces. About ITP India, we are headquartered in Mumbai, and we have been in India from last over 1 decade now. We publish magazines, we do events, we also cater to online content marketing and social media. From the magazine side, we are very premium titles. What we work towards are the Architect and Interiors India, Construction Week, Manufacturing Today, Healthcare Radius, Commercial Design, Hotelier India, and Digital Studio. Some of our international titles are displayed on your screen. And we are also catering towards the events business from ITP India, which is targeted to the industry verticals. Now about the Manufacturing Today, which is our premium magazine for the manufacturing audience in India. We publish the premium magazine monthly, and we also contribute towards the digital space, which is our online website and social media. From the Manufacturing Today is the national monthly magazine, which is focusing towards the driving force of the manufacturing. We also encourage people to participate in our focused events by way they can share the knowledge for the industry at large. We also recognize the excellence of Indian manufacturing by inviting industry professionals to be part of our nomination process for the annual Manufacturing Today Awards, which is scheduled every year in the September month. Not taking much of the time, I'll hand it over to Swati to proceed further with the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay, for that quick introduction. And as we mentioned, manufacturing today is always at the forefront in voicing out the challenges that the industry is facing. So in this time, we realized that industry is facing one of the challenges that how to go about the automation and robotics adoption in coming months, especially in the post-lockdown era. So to answer some of such questions, we have our eminent panel. May I start with Mr. Raghavendra Devlankar, who heads manufacturing at ZF India. Then we have Mr. Bhanwarlal Bishnoi, who is the group head embedded design and in L&T electrical and automation. We have Mr. Mukul Verma, who is the vice president project at JK Paper. Mr. Sheshagiri Nayak, who is the AVP at AVP Automation and Robotics, Industrial Products Group, Godrej and Boyce Manufacturing and Company. Mr. Ashim Sharma, who is the partner and group head, Business Performance Improvement, Nomura Research Institute. And last but not the least, Mr. Prabhakar Shetty, who is the Global Head Digital Manufacturing Services at L&T Technology Services. So welcome everyone once again. And to start this discussion, we are now in the lockdown era, and things are happening quite sudden, not only in India but globally. Suddenly a virus enters in our country. Suddenly we are confined to our homes. Suddenly the plants are shut. So even in the coming months, we are expected to have such sudden changes coming in. So I would like to start with Mr. Mukul Verma. You belong to a paper manufacturing company, and currently even newspaper distribution is being a problem. So how do you see the demand for your products changing? And also in reverse, how do you see adoption of new technologies that will hit your industry?
Post lockdown, we are looking at like a lot of we are into four categories. Like we are doing newsprints also, we are doing writing, printing also. Then we are into manufacturing of the board, which are used for pharmaceutical industries and then food industries, and a lot of other activities they are used like for packing boards and something. So we are looking at seeing something drop in the demand of writing and printing because people have gone digital, and school colleges are down, and so offices are down. So a lot of things are happening on digital platform. But definitely for the board, like a lot of packed food and other things are increasing. So there will be a huge demand into the board manufacturing, and we are coming up with the new projects. So that is a good sign. Plastic has recently got banned, so people got shifted to paper, board, carry bags and other things. So we are looking at a huge demand, and also the exports which was happening is mainly newsprint. Newsprint is also getting hit because of the digital newspapers are coming these days, and people are preferring those because of coronavirus and other things. So exports will be down. And in this lockdown period also, we were not able to do any domestic, but we were definitely supplying exports. Exports were going on, but not to that level because of the lockdown situation. So this is how, in broader sense, the paper industries will be doing after lockdown.
Right. And but how do you look at strategies changing towards adoption of new technologies? Because right now companies may be low on cash flows, or probably products consumer demand will change in terms of non-touch products are preferred, or more products which are made with more hygiene conditions will be preferred. So what impact will it have backward on manufacturing and the paper industry?
See, manufacturing, like automation part or digitization part, we are already doing it at manufacturing level while taking the new equipment and adopting new technology. But as far as like because paper being very heavy, so like we have tried supplying through different channels, retail, distribution. Then we have converters. Basically, we supply to the converters, who in turn convert, make the packet, the boxes and other things, and supply to the main industry who uses them as a packing material. Like we tied up with a lot of online shoppings like Amazon, Flipkart, but again, it's heavy to carry and the courier charges are more than the product cost. So we are looking at trying to reach to the community shops also. When you go to a grocery shop, there also you will see writing and printing papers also these days. So few new ways we are trying to see in the supply part. But the manufacturing front, that's totally different, like reducing manpower, digitization. The reason is there should not be an error. We can reduce people. So those type of things are already there.
Right, right.
Mukul, you come from a steel background, where automation is, you heavily rely on. What is the difference on the automation that is used in steel manufacturing and now in the industry that you are?
It's similar. Like, I don't know how the gentries are people. There may be some small players also. For each type of industry, the automation level are different. Like for a bigger organization, the automation goes at altogether a different level. When we see small MSMEs, they have to work on some altogether different platform. So they are not having even level 1, level 2 automations. We talk about level 3, then ERP package then we have level 5 even. So basically there are reasons behind is it's, if you talk about steel and paper, everywhere the automation and other things remain same. People get confused about the robotics. Whenever you're normal people, you tell robot, it means some human, somebody who is walking, doing certain things. That is not robot. Mechanical part is okay. Certain things which people do, it's done by a machine automatically. There are certain things which people prepare, some Excel sheets, some working, some reports. So those we get it done through a background in SAP or ERP package, or we automate those softwares also. So those are also robots. People should understand those are also robot-like. So we are working on two sides. One is mechanically, where people are involved to do certain jobs, which we mechanize those things. Other things are preparing reports, analyzing those things, big data analytics we talk about, auto mail sending, auto report sending. There are many things which we do with phone calls. We do every day, we put some mails. So those things we are automating it. The reports, the data are available in the system. We take those data, compile it in the background. Automatically, the reports are made. A list of people are known to whom this report should go. The transporter it should go, to a vendor it should go. It goes automatically. So these are robots only. So these things are common, whatever type of industry we are into. But when we could talk about small industry, they don't have level 1 automation. They don't have tracking system. So we have to go case by case and understand what requirement these people have. Because small people fear to come up and discuss about heavy automation with these. Everybody talks about IoT. Everybody talks about Industry 4.0. But it may not make any sense to a smaller place. So as far as steel, paper, or whatever industry you consider, the things remain same altogether. Nothing much.
Yes, Mr. Shetty, you were saying.
You spoke a bit in terms of the impact of whether it is pandemic or the situation which is prevailing. Okay. Now, I just want to give a different viewpoint simply because we work across industries and we work with most of the global majors. Now, this has impacted us also in a very, very, I would say, positive as well as negative manner. Now, what has happened is obviously, he said, there is nothing happening in terms of on-site or I would say, contact kind of operation. There is nothing new installations or new work which is starting. But definitely everybody is trying to extract more from whatever capital investments they have, whether it is a shop floor, the automation, the software, and so on and so forth. Okay. So now, for example, if you look at medical, pharma, CPG, all of them are looking at line expansion, repurposing, alternate manufacturing. The auto companies trying to do ventilator manufacturing. So what is happening is there is a need in terms of these services to be delivered remotely. So definitely the form and the shape in which we are connecting to customers has changed. We are also learning how to do it. Like, for example, if somebody wants to change the product line, okay, from making some food items to say cleaners or any of those liquids which are required for sanitization purpose. So how do you sort of help people change that in terms of a remote standpoint? Can it be done digitally? Can we help them redesign the line? Can we look at capacity of the line, so on and so forth? That is one. Second point, what is happening is everybody is now understanding that we need to be automated. We need to have systems in place. The realization is become far more starker now when the situation of no direct connect is available. So there's a lot of requests coming in terms of how do you look at managing a lot of things remotely. For example, it could be remote asset management. For example, it could be a functional requirement in terms of, like he spoke, there is a supply chain disruption. How do you manage that? This also translates into a shift in terms of how are people looking at technology. Now, we are seeing a huge uptake in terms of cloud-based technologies. Now, it has nothing to do with feeling good about cloud and the cost and the CapEx versus OpEx argument, simply because now they believe that anything which is in premise cannot be maintained. So you need a sort of risk-free, remote maintained application. Now, in what form this cloud comes, this is not going to be a full-blown implementation of any applications. This has to be ready to use with a very, very short time in terms of adoption. So that means most of these services has to be delivered in some form of service. For example, we are talking about new product development as a service, golden batch as a service, asset analytics as a service. So I think there's a lot of changes happening there also. Now you take the shop floor itself. Now, if you take many parts of US and Europe, people are not allowed to go to the factories also, or there is limited population which is working in the factories. So how do you look at workforce management? How do you conduct meetings? Like, for example, companies like Microsoft are also jumping into the fray in terms of workforce management in manufacturing. So like you would have heard that the increase of Microsoft cloud adoption went up by 800 times in last 3 weeks. So I think there's a lot of shift which is happening in terms of how do we look at the kind of technology services which are required, what is the kind of functional consulting that is required. Like I said, if it's line repurposing, vendor validation, supply chain planning, so on and so forth. I think it has not settled down. Do you think we have a solution to all the problems? How are we going to solve it? It is not there, but definitely everything is moving remote in terms of data, cloud, and cloud-based services.
Right, right. Mr. Sharma, would you add into this and tell us what are going to be trending, in coming months?
Certainly. So I think, just taking on Mr. Shetty's points, on the shop floor, we always used to see that people used to say it's dirty, it's dangerous, it's defective, we should look at automation. I think the fourth D that's got added to it, which is distancing right now. So up till now, people used to make all these calculations on IRR, etc., in terms of automation, what sort of productivity improvement we'll get. And I think a big factor that is coming in, at least in discussions that we are having, is there are certain operations where distancing cannot be maintained, and if an infection happens, could there be a shutdown loss because of that? So I think that kind of a feeling is percolating in, specifically talking also of the automotive industry, in the OEMs, and also in the tier one suppliers. This is coming in. Now, again, this is twofold. One is automation on the machines, threefold actually. One is the back end, as Mr. Verma said, and the third is in material handling. We are seeing, as regards COVID, nothing new happening, say, in terms of the back end so much, because right now it's about how do you just restart. We see a lot of things happening in material handling where, we had to have people in close proximity. So they are thinking, let's at least get this movement of stuff happening more in an automated manner, and low cost automation being looked at for machines also. So I think even in the COVID era, a lot of discussions around this have started off, and people who were traditionally looking away from automation now are, sort of gearing up much more for it, especially in discrete manufacturing and in automotive, as far as we see.
Mr. Devlankar, you belong to automotive industry. So do you have any observations in this regard?
Yeah, clearly, I see that the difference now happening in, as the earlier members, mentioned, I also echo on that. I think what I see the difference which is happening typically in manufacturing, like, for example, I'm giving the practical example of what we're doing in last 1 week while we are working from home. And there is the regulation that, we should have 1.5 meters distance between the employees when they work on the line. So we already started working on the areas where we have lesser distances and what can we do to club these stations, to automate these stations, and then do, to ensure that this distance is maintained into. So it's a case with, the parts should not be touched now, because we have a lot of imports coming into, and there's little, skepticism in the mind saying that, should we touch these parts or not? So we are working on AGVs, we have already worked on some concepts wherein we can see that how AGVs can help us to transport the material within the cells from warehouse to the line. So those kind of things already started coming in. But the more emphasis, what I see that will be given now is to work on the, back end. Because in the manufacturing, of course, there are some projects which are already planned. Many companies plan their automations. They plan for some, robots to be installed or, clubbing up the lines. That all is happening. But I see more emphasis now will be given on, back-end services like supply chain. I see a lot of automations happening on supply chain, on getting the real-time data. We are working on a module wherein we wanted to see that if the customer is consuming something, I should know that in my shop floor. And what I consume in my shop floor, my supplier should know this. And accordingly, the entire system should work on the pool kind of a production, wherein we say it's a consumption-based planning, wherein I dispatch what the customer wants, and I produce whatever has been dispatched only, and then I only procure what my production has happened. So entire the procurement loop, the production loop, and the dispatch loop is getting closed. There I see the change is going to happen going forward as a part of these automations and digitalization going forward. So that a major change I see that is going to happen in automotive field now.
Right.
Mr. Devalankar, 1 minute.
Yeah.
Mr. Devalankar, you spoke about supply chain, you spoke about real data. What are exactly companies doing with the data that they procure, the real-time data? And how is the demand procurement going to see? The demand procurement has gone for a toss, How are they going to prognosticate demand procurement now?
See, the difference going to happen now is that if I know what customers are really going to do, I mean, the strict instruction now we have that we cannot rely on the schedules what we issued. We should also apply some logic of demand, planning. And then basis that I should plan my production, basis that I should plan my consumption. So the real-time data will help me actually what is happening at the customer's place, and basis that I can procure. And the real-time data will help me out. For example, we worked on the concepts like e-Kanbans. E-Kanban is the data wherein I can see an ROIG status of the inventory on my shop floor, and the same window is being seen at the supplier's place. So supplier knows what my consumptions are happening, and based on the inventory levels, he will plan for the production. So traditional way of planning the production for a week, for a month, probably is no more in discussion now. They are thinking of what I should produce tomorrow based on my today's dispatch, and that is how the industry is working on. And typically that is what is we call as Hajunka planning, which is a consumption-based planning. And for that, this IT backup probably will help us to streamline this particular concept.
Right. That was really insightful. Can I come to Mr. Bishnoi now and ask him about what changes is he observing in his company?
Yeah, because his current scenario, like, everything is locked down and there is no physical movement allowed. So in such scenarios, largely the operations and the meetings, or maybe the, the progress, as well as the different tasks which is being distributed and done virtually. So however, like centralized manufacturing operations, because cannot be really done virtually, because there is a physical involvement of the material, there is a physical involvement of the components, and there is a supplier and sub suppliers. So there is a complete ecosystem which does exist. And if there is a inventory is there inside factory, so maybe there can be, you can maintain the social distancing, and if it is a essential commodities kind of thing, then there is a permission. But for non-essential commodities or goods, there is no permission as of now available. So now people are using this time to brainstorm and come up with the solutions, like how we can do once the lockdown opens up effectively. So different kind of SOPs, different kind of good practices, kind of people movement practices, maybe when they are in office, like how the maybe what kind of attendance levels. So these kind of and what are the operations which is like can start the productions. So those are the things which is being thought of. And so IT is the big backbone in such time. I mean, the operational technology is now anyway standstill. So IT technology is still working at a great virtual atmosphere, and that's where we today's webinar also, like earlier, I mean, there was like in person, and now we are having this virtual. So similar kind of thing in the different companies, and IT companies are at big advantage in such pandemic scenarios, because if the person has a computer and he can write a program at the home, so I think his productivity levels are maybe better in terms of IT companies, where the individual tasks are more dominant and collective tasks are less. But in the manufacturing of setup, where the collective task, because the one's output is input to the next stage and next output is input to the final stage. So that is where there is a lot of dependencies. And wherever there is a such dependent systems are there, then there is a more impact of such epidemic scenarios. So however, the automation is, yeah, please, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So in such scenarios, the automation and the non-contact kind of things are really helpful, and because they really isolate things and they break the chain. So that is where, I mean, everybody is thinking like breaking the chain in the manufacturing operation continuity is the key.
I believe Sanjay has a question. Sanjay,
Sanjay?
your mic is on mute.
I think, Jayashree, I have a question, if I may go ahead. So we spoke a lot about how big companies are dealing with it. However, SMEs may not have that kind of a bandwidth, they may not have that kind of cash flow. So, what kind of a automation solution or digital solution uh, they can deploy at their manufacturing units?
Yeah, in like SMEs or small companies, the automation like PLC is like a low cost automation. So I mean the PLCs or such kind of small application based automations where the capex investment is lower and their operations maybe thought process could be like co-assembly. Basically co-assembly means like manual as well as automation working together. So maybe as I think Mr. Raghavendra indicated, like how to maintain 1.5 meter or 2 meter distance. So maybe one can be automatic assembly station and one person. So that is like an isolation barrier which break the contact. So such kind of low cost automations can be help to overcome such situations. And the operations, because the currently I mean largely the people are thinking to go with the kind of basic operations to start. I mean, not the full-fledged. So what are the essentials? And that is the kind of operation which is required. So low-cost automation, which was earlier already available, is anyway good. But if somebody want to build up, it is going to take trial. It is going to, so it is going to take maybe some amount of time to make it fully operational. So it is like so it has to be a dynamic with respect to the manpower availability and the solution availability. I mean, solution is readily available and deployed, and it is replicating it. Then I think those solutions are more preferred, and which is even low cost also. So there is no capex and all such kind of issues are there. And now another thing is resistance of the people to accept such solution also has drastically reduced, because of this earlier which was maybe there, but now that resistance is very, very low. So adoption is going to be more faster in such scenarios.
Right.
I think Mrs. Naik should answer this question also. Mr. Naik?
Mr. Nayak, you are on mute. If you can unmute.
Yeah, I think I'm on mute.
Yeah, now you are audible.
Yeah, audible, no?
Yes.
Yeah. In this pandemic, actually, what these people are actually already started some companies, how they are actually maintaining the distance maintaining, or how they are actually automation, how they are starting the automation. Any person should be there, actually, some person should be there, start the automation or maintaining the automation. How they are going about that, actually. That is one of the questions, actually, what I raised.
But is there any specific suggestion that you would like to give SMEs or startups in terms of deployment?
SMEs actually normally what SMEs are doing, they are not a high investment. So low cost, whatever the low cost, whatever he has told, low cost automation, they have to go for that actually. And there are also people also actually, maybe there's some limited people will be there, and area also very small, and nearby the machines will be there. Most of the SMEs are having a CNC machines or some CNC PLC operated. So that can be some actually automation like a with a pesto things, or actually some pneumatics or some hydraulic small things they can incorporate, and actually they can make it use of that automation. That will be help in this situation.
Okay. Can we go back to Sanjay?
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I think my mic was unmute. I couldn't recognize it at instant. My question is for Mr. Prabhakar Shetty. I wanted to check, like automation always has been an integral part for any manufacturing, keeping the situations in mind, how Industry 4 people are looking forward to adopt. Now, keeping the COVID-19 situation in mind, will this be applicable on a faster scale by the manufacturing companies?
See, if you look at traditional manufacturing, there was always some level of automation or the other. Like the gentleman from JK mentioned, at least they will have level 1 and level 2. Maybe they might not have the level 3 or other the AI systems and cognitive systems and other advanced systems. Okay? But definitely in a COVID kind of scenario, as I said earlier, there will be so many choices available. Like, for example, we are exploring certain options with robo vendors where we can offer robo as a service. That means there is not going to be a huge capex investment or a upfront investment, even a small startup or a SME has to do, but he can leapfrog in terms of his adoption of technology or automation. Second, I think there will be a lot of industry specific solutions also which will come up. Okay, like I said, if I can put up a new product development model, which is a kind of model based design, which is connected to manufacturing, closed loop and everything, for say ventilators, which can be adopted within a week, and there is no upfront IT team required or complex process understanding that is required. You only need the specialist from a functional standpoint. I think there are a lot of options which could be coming up. Okay, and like I said earlier, the shift to adopt technology will really be taking off in a large scale now, because that realization that especially when you want to be remote, how do you manage the business? So I think whether it is startups or SMEs, everybody needs to get into automation. It's the scale and the form in which they go that will be the big difference.
Thank you, Mr. Shetty. Thank you.
And on this note, should we take a quick poll? We have a question ready, I think. Has it popped up?
Swati, go ahead with the questions. The poll will just show on screen.
Yeah, sure. So I'll go ahead with the question. Yeah, there's a poll here. So what does our audience think? Do you think lockdown and pandemic era will change your perspective towards making investments into new technologies? What do our panelists think? If you I can go back to Mr. Mukul Verma and ask him the same question, that will the perspective of any company will change towards adopting new technologies?
Post-pandemic, the main focus area will be finishing, dispatch, loading, unloading, raw material and finished good. That is the area where the people are coming closer. In the process line, people are having the distancing done, but at unloading raw material at the MS small industries or bigger industries even. So at those areas, the automation or some methods already available which people have not incorporated, because in India it is thought of that we have a cheaper manpower, so people were not going into the process automation where the manpower is getting reduced. Indian manufacturers are going into places where the performance, quality, yield, efficiency is improved. Those areas people are doing the automation and other things. So now the concentration will go in the more people-centric areas, which is entry and exit of any of the industry where the more concentration of people are there. So definitely those areas, the automation and those things will come up.
Right. Mr. Devlankar, would you like to add?
Yeah, I clearly see there will be a change in the technologies, in future, but right now it is difficult to state it out because there is a two different stream. I'm talking about specifically automotive industry with this, Corona coming in. One stream of, which says that, now because of the distancing issues coming in, the common public transports will be an issue now. People will not prefer on that. And then, they will go for more of individual, vehicles. The other stream says that because of this COVID coming into, we don't know what's really going to happen, whether the customer buying choices will be there for the individual vehicles or not, or, will they go for something different. The third area which is progressing in automotive, which is already working on, and then we see that will further go on, is autonomous vehicles, the battery operated vehicles, autonomous vehicles coming into. So for sure, there will be changes happening post pandemic, both in terms of product and also in terms of processes, because the way in which we're looking at the things probably I think will get changed, and for sure it will bring some changes going forward in our way of working.
In our conversation, we briefly touched upon the area of digitalization. So I'll come to Mr. Sharma to ask him that do you see the digitalization adoption getting faster post-pandemic?
Yes, certainly, Swati, and that too in another area that, so see, today what's happening is largely there is a track and trace available for parts in the supply chain, right? Let's take industries which have a multi-tiered supply chain like automotive, right? And, as we were just hearing from Mr. Ravindra also, you look at e-Kanban, the time of dispatch is getting shortened, you're just planning for the next day. Now, with this in mind, we should also remember that the time it takes for the infection on COVID on a part to spread, there is that quarantining time, which we will not have. Say, for example, the unfortunate event of an infection spreading happens in the supply chain. It will be very important to do a contact tracing of people who worked on that batch of parts, not just the parts, but across the multi-tiered supply chain who had worked on those parts, So for that track and trace to come in, even smaller manufacturers will have to come in with, higher amounts of digitization. Anyway, in the big manufacturers, we've already seen large scale adoption happening. Now, we would see this permeating down into the entire supply chain as well.
Right.
When things go out, like your trucks, etc., warehouses, end-to-end tracing of contacts will be important.
So data and analysis makes more prominence in the months to come.
Yeah, and then, that will, everything can piggyback on this. Then later on, you can also have analytics and all because you've anyway connected all the parts seamlessly then.
Right. Jesse, do you have anything?
Yes, Ashim, I have a question for you. So there are a lot of young entrepreneurs, or maybe the IITs, coming up with novel kind of automation solutions, maybe on a smaller scale, but they're very novel and radical. How are corporates, instead of going to maybe, companies like, or instead of going to automation companies and looking at corporates, how are corporates looking at absorbing that or maybe adopting it?
Yeah, so, traditionally, I would say there was a less of, propensity to go towards such people because automation decisions, were taken with a slightly longer period horizon in mind, looking at productivity, all of that. It wasn't, today what happened is that you probably need an automation in areas which you are not factored in for earlier. So there, some of these startups are also bringing to the table lower cost solutions. And therefore, the openness to look at those solutions has increased much more in the current era, especially even in the smaller manufacturers. And some places it's also being seen that, they can also look at devising, something more, suitable given the budgets that somebody has. Also looking more on terms of, the automation principle, not so much automation. So Jidoka. Which is also one of the distancing measures you could use in a small plant. So we see the openness of even larger corporates towards these startups increasing in the current era.
Mr. Devlankar, I have this question for you because ZF globally, I received lots of press releases from ZF saying that they have come up with something, some automation for vehicles or for driverless cars or something like that. How do you look at young entrepreneurs globally and maybe the academia globally?
In fact, I will quote what is happening in ZF India here. I mean, I echo to Ashim what he rightly said, because now we have to look for the areas which so far we are not touched for the automations. And believe me, we have a list of at least 20 areas we identified in the last 3 months wherein we have to go for automations. And if I look for the investments, if I take a decisions on those in terms of ROIs, and if you go with the big existing giants for the automations, probably the investment will be too high. But for sure, then we are looking for some startups. I have already interacted with at least 3-4 startups in the last couple of months. They came with a fantastic solutions and which are very, very time effective and also the cost effective. I mean, to quote an example, I have a training school, we call it the dexterity school for the operator training. And there I was, fixed to see that how can we train the employees faster way and to give them the insights of transmission. For example, we make a transmissions and transmission is a complete box. And I want to give them an idea that how inside transmission will look like. And then one person give an idea saying that why not we go for a virtual reality kind of training module on this. And then we call one startup company. They came and given a fantastic demo, and now we are working very aggressively with that to see that how that can help. And believe me, it is very, very cost effective and also time effective. If you go with the big existing giants for that, probably I think it will call for some millions of euros for to spend. I think those are the changes happening into. And here I think we have to take a decision between the time, cost, and the application what you're looking for it. Basis that, I think I am towards it that we should encourage the startups going for it, because the application bandwidth has now increased like anything. I'm talking about in each and every area, right from the employee entering in the company till the time they go back. Probably we have to have a traceability, we have to have online data. So everything we cannot manage with the existing companies coming into. We have to go for the startups. We have to go for this kind of solutions, and I'm for it.
Startups are
I just have one question. I just have one more question. Now that I'm reading about a lot of layoffs. We're reading about lots of there are going to be layoffs, and there are going to be lots of divisions that are going to shut. With people being laid off, do you think companies will take recourse to automation and robotics as a substitution and as to prevent themselves, to guarding themselves as in future risk?
See, this is very. This question is for me. Yeah,
everybody can answer.
Okay, so I'll try to answer this question, because this is a very typical challenge being faced in and discussed in the industry now every day and in out. Last 1 month we're discussing on this. Yes, there will be a challenge for us now to see that what do we do. The main reason for that is, the demand uncertainty. And we are yet to figure it out how the demand will be looking like in the automotive, because in automotive now there is one more variable which is yet to be seen, that how Euro 6 will be pursued by the market now, which is launched on 1st of April, and now the retail market has yet to see that. So we are not very sure how the demand will go for it, and then typically the resource planning of manpower in any of the industry happens from the demand. So we are waiting currently to see that how the demand will see, and then basically that we can take a call on that. For sure, as of today, we don't have any plans of those kind of layoffs as such coming in. We are at least thinking that how can we accommodate the people going forward. And already we started thinking that can we look for some other revenues by which these people can be absorbed, these people can be adjusted. For example, we are looking for a lot of back office work for our other locations in Europe and in US. There today they have the manpower scarcity coming into, they need a lot of support. And in India, I think we can do some back office work for them, maybe in terms of supply chain, maybe in terms of quality, maybe in terms of BPQP planning, maybe in terms of design. I think those solutions we are working out so that we can keep the people engaged. Even I'm encouraging the people from the shop floor to adapt for those kind of changes, giving them the horizon, saying that if suppose there is no job going to happen after 3 months time, would you like to adopt this as a choice for you? And there are quite a few people are showing their interest so that they can at least save their jobs and then look for a new career going forward.
Right. Mr. Vishnu, do you have any observation in this regard in your company?
In our company, I think as of now, there is a situation as it is. So I don't think, there is any, situation is there. But however, a lot of people are trying to reskill themselves to, cope up with the changed scenarios in the market conditions. So, a lot of people, switching to data analytics, artificial intelligence, kind of new avenues, and which is going to, remain there for longer term. So those kind of, but those are Indian efforts. There is, as a company, there is no, as of now.
Right. I would like to come back to a couple of questions from audience. There's one question for Mr. Ashim Sharma. Mr. Sharma, you touched the topic of material handling automation in the auto industry. Can you give us few examples so that SSI manufacturer and supplier can correlate? Does it open new opportunity, and what are they?
Yeah, so I think already we are seeing that, when we talk about material handling, so till now, say, certain parts like headlamps, etc., which are prone to scratches, we anyway used to use more and more automation here. This now will also come up for things which, need, say, 2 people to move it. So because then social distancing cannot happen in things like these. Say, something was coming on a trolley which was being moved by two people because of the sheer weight of the thing. Say it's a trolley carrying seats, so we will see, the use of maybe an AGV there, or maybe, some sort of another material handling device, which can, ease this kind of, the distancing measures can be implemented. So it's on things like these, primarily next to the assembly line and in warehouses.
Right. I have one more question here. With the restrictions witnessed due to COVID-19, a lot of migrant laborers have witnessed hardships due to being unable to go to back home. It is possible. It is possible that hesitation for them to come back. I mean, there could be a hesitation for laborers to come back. So can we expect going forward shortage of labor or skilled labor, or do we have to sort of opt for unskilled labor or start from scratch? So something like that.
That's also for me. Yeah.
Anybody can answer this.
Yeah, so if you ask me, I think that's, and maybe the others can correlate more towards their factories. But in general, if you see, I think it's not a standard answer for all. Like if you see in the automotive sector, say the big companies had given salaries in advance. Many people also stay close to the plants. That's how the structures are in India. So maybe you will be able to get that workforce in. Also, we will be operating at much lower capacities with fewer people. So maybe the problem's not that exacerbated in, as far as the big companies are concerned. But when we go down to the smaller suppliers, maybe this is going to be a bigger problem, and these supply chokes will appear. And that's where, probably say tier 1 will look at bringing in something that a tier 3 was doing. So because that factory cannot start because there isn't manpower, or loaning out manpower to such centers. I think those kind of, multiple things are going to play out as far as manpower is concerned.
About the manpower which you are talking about, like it is the daily wager or the contracted labor who are working in basically for the project or the construction or for infra. Those will get affected, not the company who have employed, and there are certain contract laborers who are year on year working for the same plant. So they are not going to get affected. But definitely all the project activity, the capex where they are invested, infrastructure project, construction work, everything will get affected post lockdown.
Right. Mr. Shetty, do you have any points to add to it?
That's a very touchy question, right? What happens to manpower? So I would go with what Devalkar says. Ultimately, it's business, right? If there is a contraction in the demand, everything down the line gets impacted. Okay. Now, so I don't think it's a situation of plenty there. So if there is less production being done and less demand for services, you don't need too much of manpower, especially in the lower end of the pyramid when we talk about unskilled labor and so on and so forth. But obviously, coming back to the earlier question, so obviously this might mean that there are a lot of things which are going to change, right? The methods, the ideas, the way we look at the entire business might transform itself. Okay, so some of the thought processes, like whether people talk it as Industry 4.0 or digitalization, and all those will get baseline and probably get accelerated. Okay, but frankly, correlating that to manpower loss, gain, or employability, it's a bit too far-fetched, right? Like, for example, you take automobile. If I go for electrical cars or ADAS or any of those technologies, the battery vehicles and so on and so forth, if one stream of employment or skill set is getting redundant, it's obviously opening up many other skills and many other revenues. Okay, there's so much of work we do as a company for ADAS and other kind of things, which are like huge teams which are working on that. So I think other than the pandemic situation, there is going to be a transformation in the business. Transformation obviously has challenges of change. But at the end of that, there is going to be, I would say, common minimum which will happen where everything will settle down.
I'll take one last question from the audience. Since automation is for mass production and repetitive types of production, post-COVID, there will be a volume reduction and smaller batches, and we'll see frequent changeovers. In such cases, how can automation be still viable? If anyone.
Yeah, I think the answer is simple. It becomes more relevant in that case. Like again, I think Mr. Devalkar said, now the uh, time distance between a product ask and how much we have to deliver might be 24 days, even for an automobile kind of company. So that means your design has to be connected to end customer, your production has to be connected to end customer. So that means we are talking about adopting concepts like whether it is model-based design or design for manufacturing. Many of those concepts are very, very relevant today. Okay, smaller batches with far more proximity to customer requirements and customer needs changes means automation is going to be there, and without automation, you can't respond to this.
Right.
Mr. Naik has been
Yeah.
very silent for a long time. I think Mr. Naik should answer.
Yes. This automation normally for after COVID, maybe the production is not much, but automation actually whatever it is there, I can scale it to the minimum level or maximum level. That kind of a things we can do it. So that is not a problem. Whenever the demand comes, actually we can increase the production also, even shorter. That can be programmed like that. So that can be done with a post this overcome to these problems.
Yeah, I have one question.
Yeah, I would like to add some thing here. Like it gives us a lot of flexibility and agility. So kind of agility and flexibility where the minimum to maximum. I think Mr. Naik what he has said. Like it gives a fast ramping up and fast ramping down. So if the option is available, because if new automation is being created, then this is a different scenario. If automation is already existing, then it is a different scenarios. There are two scenarios here.
Mr. Verma.
Yes, Mukul.
Yeah, nothing like, because it is already 5, so I have to leave this meeting and I have another meeting planned already. Thanks a lot for calling me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Mr.
Mukul.
Verma.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think we are almost towards the end. I had one last question for Mr. Nayak.
Yeah.
You were already talking about the viability. So what are the parameters? How to choose the automation solutions wisely in these conditions? Are there any parameters?
Yeah. Some of the parameters are there actually. Automation actually we can choose wisely. So normally we are getting a lot of solutions from the end users or sometimes actually from the production people. But how to choose that solution, it is a viable. Or wisely, how do I have to choose this? That in our actually, in our companies, actually what I am working there, we are some methodology. It is called a 14 steps, what we are using for that. They are the one is they fully understand the process of which you are actually automate. Second, establish the business case. For that, actually, whatever you have to make a business case, define the automation goal and objectives, and then resource requirement. What resource requirement? Set implementation schedules and timelines. Identify the automation opportunity within the process. Okay, review the pros and cons. So then level of process complexity, automation implementation prioritization, automation deployment location, cost benefit analysis, impact on business. That is also actually very important. Whatever actual solution we are, how the impact on our businesses, and security risk of the automation. So sometimes actually security risk also is the major concern for the concern. So that also, and then whatever we are thinking that automation should be long-term basis, not a short-term basis. So on these 14 steps, we are choosing the solution.
Right.
Gentlemen, I have a question. How are you using the force majeure? Like even insurance companies are putting it into force, the force majeure policy now. How are you using it? I mean, I'm not saying whether to your advantage or to your disadvantage, but how are you using it?
Right now, we are not thinking on that level because we are not used actually that kind of a thing. Because normal automation, what we are doing, when the fourth measures, actually whatever the inference, all these things, we have not covered. But the equipment, okay, we are covering the all the inference, all these things, like a plant level or something. But in the normal automation, actually, we are not covering all these things.
Bhavarlal Mishra, how about you?
This I think insurance part I am not very sure of, but anyway, like new because this COVID is a unique and new problem. So I don't think earlier people has thought of such kind of insurances. But however, I think I could see in the market like some companies are coming with some proposals. So maybe in coming time, people may look at it. So as of now, I think I mean there is no aggression in it, but it could be coming into thought process.
Asham, can you tell us, as a consulting company, you must be coming across a lot of companies who could put this into practice. How will this work for them, and will it work for them?
So, we've also, to be honest, not come across the first major thing so far as the pandemic's going on. Nobody's, sort of come out with, enforcing that right now. So that's not been the case, even in our case. All the other things that the participants saying, of course, on automation, etc. Those we see, catching up a lot even now. I just have one small point since I'm speaking on the employment part that was being mentioned. I think we are seeing, a huge change that's happening of, people from just low cost of a supply chain to how resilient the supply chain is. And, and since automation is making it resilient today, I think in sort of the geopolitical order that's changing, if we adopt more automation, become more resilient in our supply chains, we might actually be able to pull in a lot of export orders as well, which could, in turn lead to a much effect on employment in the long run.
Thank you. Thank you. Hafiz, you have a question, right? Hafiz, you're on mute.
I wanted to ask if I can be audible.
Yes, you are, Hafiz.
Yeah, I'm sure post lockdown, the maintenance will be a big challenge. How are you also looking at that on that perspective?
I think Raghavendra will be the best person to answer, and maybe Sheshagiri.
Yeah. I will answer for that. In the maintenance is not a big problem because in our company, it's a big complex, even Godrej, lot of divisions are there. What we did. Hello. Yeah. What we did actually, even in the lockdown period also, we have taken a permission from the authorities, and we have 3 to 4 people we have kept in shop floor. They are continuously maintaining this preventive maintenance, all these things, and day to day they are starting the equipment, because even the post lockdown, it should not go to the breakdowns. So kind of such activities we have carried out. So even that also, any companies, most of the companies have did same thing actually, because in the COVID time actually they can, in the lockdown time, they can go to the shop and they can maintain the machines, because they cannot start the production, but it's not much people, only 2 to 3 people can go there and actually they can maintain the place. That's what we have practiced.
Yeah, I can just add up on, to this point on maintenance. I mean, we are working on two-way action plan. One is we couldn't able to get a permission as such to go in because of the red zone in our area. But what we did is that since this is the first ever situation wherein the machines are off for about more than 30 days now, so we have contacted most of the OEMs who are the machine manufacturers, and we could able to get information from them that what are the do's and don'ts now when we restart the machines back. We prepared our own checklist, and then now thinking of that when we go back on the day one, when we open it back, what precautions we should take when we start it back so that we don't make any mistakes while we starting up and don't end up into bigger breakdowns. That's one thing we can immediately plan into. I think that work is already going on, and then to some extent we could able to get a lot of information from the OEMs that what are the do's and don'ts for restart of the machines. The second thing in maintenance, what I personally see, taking the era of automation now, that post COVID, I see that we will have to change our paradigm from the breakdown maintenance attendance towards the predictive maintenance. And here I see that the artificial intelligence probably will help us, because we are talking about connecting the machines. We are talking about getting the pre-sentences when the machine is about to break down, and taking that data for analysis, and then taking some actions on the preventive measures on that. So there we already started working. I mean, one of the initiatives we are taken as a post-COVID strategy measures is to go for a predictive maintenance, wherein we can have the data from various machines, and then do some analysis wherein we can able to predict what is going to happen. I mean, this is not a very new practice as such, but then I foresee that there could be a trend of adopting that more going forward now.
I think that's an important point, I feel. One, if automation is reasonably up to mark, a lot of things can be done remotely. Like Mr. Deolkar said, we can do a lot of remote asset management practices. Second, what is happening is the trend will move. It's beyond automation, right? We are telling we are going to have connected, digitally enabled, whatever industry 4.0, smart manufacturing plants and all that. But I think we have to look beyond that also. Like he mentioned, it's no more automation. It's about using AI, cognitive intelligence for a autonomous kind of setup, where there is a lot of self-healing, self-correction being done by these machines. So I think we have to look 2 steps ahead into era of autonomy rather than just automation.
Right. Sanjay, you wanted
Yeah,
to
I just want, before we close the session, which was quite interesting, just one question to maybe Mr. Bishnoi or any of the panelists who would like to, I wanted to check from the large enterprise point of view, how they are looking for their suppliers, which are into the MSMEs or small scale industries, in adopting technology and helping up to cope with the current situation.
Yeah, I think a lot of suppliers, they are ERP dashboard, they have access and they have, the needs, whatever is there. So there is a close collaboration, because when some plant starts, then the supplier also needs to supply the raw material. So there is a close collaboration, and maybe some, buffer quarantine stock is there, but beyond that, the supplier needs to supply the next stock. So there is a very close automated collaboration using the IT tools, ERP and other kind of tools. So that's, I think, in place. I mean, and it is helping in such scenarios. And however, I think some tools and molds and machines, I mean, they it don't use for 1 month, 2 months, then I think they get jammed. So that jamming kind of things, I mean, there is some special case, which I think, as Mr. Raghavendra has mentioned, the OEM or the people who are supplying those things, they, I think, have a proper checks and balance in place. So people are applying that before the machines are operational, so that there is no damage to machines. So these kind of practices, which is preventive and predictive, are in place. And however, the machines which is like autonomy kind of machines, I think as of now they are not there, but in future I think they will be the part of practice, where if machine is not operated 2 months, then it automatically operates to maintain its health, which is even though not used for some quite of time, but after that, if it is started, it is auto start without any trouble.
Right. Anyone
Thank
else?
you, Mr. Bishnoi. Thank you. I think we had quite a long and interesting session, and even people are still awaiting to ask so many questions.
I think we can take them online, offline, Sanjay. Later on, we can pass them on to the panelists, probably.
Sure.
Yeah. And in the interest of time, we have to end this now. And that was really interesting, and insightful, as Sanjay said. So thank you, panelists, for giving your valuable opinions. There is one more poll that is still remaining. Can we have that? And audience has been really wonderful, really engaging, and asking so many questions. We are really thankful to the audience also for the overwhelming response. In case we have missed out on any questions, I am sure we have missed out on a lot of questions. We'll take them offline later on. And this session will be available to watch later. We might take 1 or 2 working days to upload this, but you can watch it later. So no worries if you have missed on anything. You can watch it later. Don't worry about that. And we have few other webinars also planned. So please stay tuned with us. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. It was absolute pleasure. It was absolute pleasure hosting you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye. Thanks.